Hello everyone and welcome back to TowerGate. It is TowerGate day number 596. 596. Friday, November the 2nd, 2018. Thank you so much for tuning in. Happy Friday, by the way. A lot to talk about today, so let's get to it. Before I do get to the news of the day, which is quite interesting, I just want to follow up on something I talked about yesterday, kind of briefly. It was this comment that was made by this failed actor. I think his name's James Cromwell. And he made the comment about the fact that if the Democrats lose the House or lose the midterm elections, there's going to be blood in the streets. Now, my first comment that I gave yesterday was just kind of off the top of my head. Gut instinct. I didn't think a whole lot about it. It was my gut reaction to what he said. Which is what I suggested was, well, that's a pretty dangerous statement to make, suggesting there'll be blood in the streets because an election doesn't turn out the way you want it to. You talk, people use this term dog whistle. That's more than a dog whistle. That's almost a call to action, a call to arms. And I suggested to Mr. Cromwell and those of you viewing this video that if you make a call like that, and you motivate people to come out and take part in violence because they don't like the way the election turned out, and they come to an area like where I live, they're going to do very badly. As most of you know, I live in southwestern Ohio, the very southwestern tip of Ohio. This is a extremely red area of Ohio. Our county has the third highest gun registration or concealed carry in the United States. We don't even have Democrats even run in the district I live in. It's like 87, 88% Republican. They don't even run Democrats here. It's a very, very hardcore pro-Second Amendment area I live in. Lots of hunting, lots of sports shooting, lots of people, just gun collectors, just gun owners. Just it's a big, a lot of gun people around where I live. We all grew up with guns. It's part of our culture. It's a gun culture where I live. And we're like, Midwestern type farm boys up here and women. And we don't take kindly to commies. And if commies come here, we will kick the crap out of them. But I can tell you, our sheriff, Richard K. Jones, has already stated once before when these issues came up, he will deputize thousands of people in this district, in this county, if he has to. If Mr. Cromwell were to send his goons here, they would first be met by law enforcement. If they got past law enforcement, they would never get past the citizens here because this is a nice area. We have nice properties. We're not going to let a bunch of commies come marching through our town, burn down our properties, destroy our properties. It's not going to happen. It's not going to happen. It would be very, very ugly. And this never happens. Let's take a look at the history of these types of things, which is well documented. When you see these riots that happen around the country, and sometimes it's because their team won a sporting championship. They'll riot because of that, or they riot because of the Michael Brown incident. They'll riot over all these things. But if you look, you'll notice that they don't go into Republican or conservative areas or red districts or red counties or whatever and conduct their mischief. They do it in their own communities. They burn down their own buildings. They destroy their own businesses. They destroy their own property. They do it right there in their own backyard. They take out their anger on their own peeps. This shows how ignorant they are. And it also shows that they're wise enough to realize that the liberal mayors and town councils and sheriffs or whoever will allow this stuff to go on in these urban areas controlled by Democrats. But they know if they were to take their act into a conservative area, like where I live, that they would be immediately shut down, thrown in jail, and arrested. And if they took a swing at a cop, they'd probably get shot. If they threatened violence against a cop, they'd probably get shot. If they threatened violence against a property owner here and came on his property, and the property owner says, "Get off my property," and they keep coming, they might get shot. And they would be acquitted by a jury. They certainly would be. They know this. So, Mr. Cromwell, If you want to see liberal cities burn in urban areas like Los Angeles and Philadelphia and Detroit, you go ahead and keep up with those calls for violence. But just remember, it's not going to be areas where we all live, Trump supporters and red state America, that's going to suffer the damage that will occur. It will be the very liberal cities and the very liberals that you hang out with, Mr. Cromwell. You're the ones who will tolerate this crap. Conservative towns and mayors, sheriffs, and citizens won't tolerate this. So this is just really, again, it's Mr. Cromwell is an idiot. He's not thinking this through, because if he did, history would show him that when these people riot and do all the property destruction and all the things they do it in their own communities. They don't go to where the adversary or their enemies are. That would be us. They don't come to where we live because they know they wouldn't last a minute. They'd get their asses royally kicked and arrested, maybe shot, maybe killed. So that's why they don't do it. They act up in their own communities. Have at it, Mr. Cromwell. But I want to tell Mr. Cromwell, I've thought this through. He's talking about blood in the streets. Bullshit. It's not going to happen. Again, if you see anything, it's going to be liberals, SJWs, fascist, whatever, acting up in their own communities, if we even see that. Most likely they'll just cry and do YouTube videos and call 911 and go, what is this? I'm going to kill myself. I'm serious. Somebody fix this shit. That's what you're going to get. More of that, and we'll laugh hard at every bit of it. But let me tell you, Mr. Cromwell, what may happen after the midterms. Because I believe that, as many of you know, that there's not going to be a blue wave. I don't really think there's going to be a red tsunami, but I do think the Republicans are going to do very well in the Senate, and I think they will hold on to the House. I think it will be close because they're defending 40 seats, and there's a ton of money being spent. But most likely, Mr. Cromwell, what is likely to happen, and the blood that may be spilled over this deal after the midterms, if the Democrats lose the midterms, which I believe they will, what's most likely to happen, Mr. Cromwell, is that this will likely cause an internal civil war in the Democratic Party, because they'll be looking for who to blame. And the corporate Democrats will look at the left-wingers, the social justice warriors, and say, it's you crazy people. You crazy people cost us the election. And then the social justice warriors, the crazies on the far left of the Democratic Party, will look at the corporate Democrats and say, no, it's you. You're the ones who caused this because you're corporate Democrats. And nobody likes you. Nobody trusts you. You're old, crusty white people who don't get it. We want socialism. And you refuse to get on board. People want socialism. And you refuse to get on board. You need to go. So this is what's most likely to happen, Mr. Cromwell. What's most likely to happen after the midterms, after you get your asses kicked, Mr. Cromwell, is not a bunch of Democrats and social justice. What is Nancy Pelosi and all the folks? What are they going to do? Come to red states and start protesting us or something? Who cares? We win. Protest all you like. Protest all you like. We won. No, what's most likely to happen is that you are going to have a meltdown within the Democratic Party within the first few hours of them losing the midterms. It will take them about 48 hours to get a grip on themselves, and then you'll see the finger pointing start. And pretty soon the voices will get louder and louder, and you will see massive division within the Democratic Party itself. The war, Mr. Cromwell, that is coming is going to be an internal civil war within the Democratic Party when you realize, and they realize, both sides, that they can't win with each other. They can't live together. They can't live apart. They can't bring their act together. They can't. There's no way to sort it out. They never did. They never did since 2016. It's one of the reasons they lost in 2016. And they never fixed the problem. They never fixed the problem. They've been using and baiting the extreme left wing of the party, thinking that's the energetic part of their base to come out and give them a blue wave, at which point, as soon as, even if they did win and have a big win, they would just turn around and give the middle finger to the SJWs, and they would go back and act like the corporatist Democrats that they are. So, Mr. Cromwell, there's not going to be blood in the streets, not in red state America, I can assure you. And if there was, it wouldn't be our blood that's flowing, sir. But what is going to happen, Mr. Cromwell, is likely, I believe likely, after the midterms, when you lose again, it's going to cause an internal war within the Democratic Party. That's where the real blood in the streets may happen. And even that's a ridiculous term. It's just going to be a lot of screaming and shouting is what it's going to be. Could destroy the Democratic Party. They got to go into 2020 completely divided. Completely divided. And there's no one in the field I can see who's going to bring them together. This could destroy the Democratic Party. They will destroy themselves. So there it is, Mr. Cromwell. That's the real truth about what's likely to happen if the Democrats don't win the midterms. It ain't going to be no blood in the streets. Not in red state America. Not in red counties. Not in red districts. Ain't going to happen. What is going to happen, sir, is the likely implosion of the Democratic Party in an internal civil war. One last thing. People talk a lot about the money. Yes, the money is important to get your message out. But there is a point to where you have a saturation point. Once you've spent all this money, you've been running these ads hour after hour after hour on every radio station, 50 times an hour, on TV, 50 times an hour. Pretty soon, you have saturated your market in these congressional districts. And then it's just this water off a duck's back. People don't even pay attention anymore. They've seen so many ads, it's oversaturation. And we know that the Right Reverend Clinton spent double what Trump spent. She spent $1.2 billion. He spent half that, and she lost handily in the Electoral College. So it's more about your message. Now, you do need money to get your message out. But there's a point where once you've got your message out, you can continue to put the stuff out there, but at some point, you've reached saturation point, and it no longer matters. You're just piling on. And if anything, you piss people off because they're tired of hearing about it. So I don't know that the money is that big of a factor once you reach the point where everyone understands who the candidates are and what their message is. So that's why I don't think that the money is going to be the deciding factor in a lot of these races unless the Republican simply hasn't had enough money to get his message out. But once you get to a certain point, everyone knows, especially in these congressional races, because again, these are local people. They probably was on the town council, then they were maybe the mayor, then they maybe went to the state senate. They're local politicians. Everyone knows who they are. So again, it's a tough deal. I'm not 100% confident we're going to win the House, but I'm pretty confident. And if you look at the people, if you want to really know what a lot of people really think, go look at what the people who have skin in the game have to say about it. In other words, look at the betting sites. Look at the betting sites. The betting sites, some of these betting sites, the top ones in the country, have Republicans keeping the House. And the ones that do have the Democrats winning the House have them doing it with this very slim majority. There's nobody in the big money players who actually have money on the line, the betting lines and things like that. They're not showing any type of a blue wave. They're showing the Republicans easily holding the Senate and possibly holding the House. A couple of them have the Republicans definitely holding the House, and the ones that show Democrats winning the House have it by a slim margin. That's the truth. There. Mark Meadows. Yesterday, again, we talked about this Mark Meadows. Now, when I did the video yesterday, and I talked about Mark Meadows talking about learning that, finding out that they had been taping Papadopoulos, recording Papadopoulos, that there were tapes and transcribed interviews or transcriptions from recorded conversations of Papadopoulos. I was thinking, okay, they're talking about 2016. They're talking about Halper. They're talking about Downer. They're talking about Mifsud or others. They're talking about 2016 and all that. But as it turns out, we learned today that that's not what Meadows is talking about. Although there may be, recordings of that. But what Meadows was talking about was recordings having to do with the frame-up of Papadopoulos by Uncle Bob the Executioner, the special counsel, in this deal where he was given $10,000 by an Israeli spy. That's what he's talking about. And how do we know that? We know it from Papadopoulos Tweets. because after Mark Meadows came out and made that statement, Papadopoulos tweeted the following. He said, "The $10,000 has been safely stored away after the likely asset trying to set me up did not want to take their money back after I told them to retrieve it. I am sure we can get the money to the committee for examination to see who was behind it." Let me say that again. Papadopoulos tweet following Mark Meadows' statement. "The $10,000 has been safely stored away after the likely asset trying to set me up did not want to take their money back after I told them to retrieve it. I'm sure we can get the money to the committee for examination to see who was behind it." They're talking about this $10,000 that was given to Papadopoulos by this Israeli agent who also works for the FBI and the CIA, and we know that. Much evidence to prove that. I'm not going to go through all that because I don't have time, but there's a very long history of this individual working with the FBI and CIA. So we know he's an FBI CIA informant or asset or agent or whatever you want to call it. And we know he's the one that planted the $10,000 on Papadopoulos, which Papadopoulos smelled a rat. He said, "Man, this dude's going to be $10,000 in cash. Why does someone give you 10 grand in cash?" And with all the other strange things that are going on, there's something wrong here. He goes to Greece. Before he comes back to the States, he stops off in Greece, where he's from, and he goes to this lawyer he trusts and says, "Here, hold on to this 10 grand. I'm headed back to the States. Well, there's something going on here. I don't want to have this money on me." He smelled a rat. Then, following Papadopoulos' tweet, Mark Meadows tweets out something regarding this situation, which tells us that he is talking about the $10,000. And this all occurred in 2017, in July of 2017, way after Comey was fired, and Peter's been stroking us, and all these people have been discovered, and we're deep into Spygate at this point. The Mueller investigation has been going on for 6 months at this point. So then Meadows tweets out about this, and then Papadopoulos tweets to Mark Meadows. And Papadopoulos tweets to Mark Meadows 2 hours after Meadows makes his tweet. Paps tweets back to him, "I am more than happy to deliver the $10,000 in cash I received as part of what I believe was a sting operation to frame me in the summer of 2017 to your committee to examine for marked bills. This is in the interest of me being fully transparent." One more time, from Papadopoulos to Mark Meadows, a tweet. "I am more than happy to deliver the $10,000 in cash I received as part of what I believe was a sting operation to frame me in the summer of 2017 to your committee to examine for marked bills. This is the interest of me being fully transparent." So this totally changes the game, my friends, because this shows us that not only was there an effort to frame Papadopoulos as the patsy to get to Trump in 2016, but once Uncle Bob came onto the scene, and he's supposed to be doing an investigation into Russia and whether Trump and Russia were working together to fix the election or whatever, he ends up getting into this little game where he too attempts to run a frame-up operation on Papadopoulos. Uncle Bob the executioner and the Hillary donor posse are supposed to be doing a special counsel investigation. Instead, they're running a frame-up operation on the very patsy that the previous FBI director, Comey, McCabe, and others ran the frame-up operation on. So they must have looked at Papadopoulos and said, "Yeah, man, we did it before. Hell, let's do it again. This guy, we can just play this guy. He doesn't know anybody. He's not connected to anybody. He don't have a lot of money. He can't fight it. Well, this is the guy. We're just going to beat this guy up. We're just going to take this guy for the ride, and we're going to get him on a serious charge. We're going to get him on a serious charge, and we're going to force him to compose a nice melody for us, for him to get off the hook or spend 40 years in jail. He has to tell us a story about Trump." That's what they were trying to do. That's why they went for such a major move, because that'll get you many, many years in jail. Coming into the U.S. with $10,000 that you did not declare will get you about 20 years, 15, 20 years. Too much time for a young man like Papadopoulos to do. He could be coerced into composing a tune. That's what they were doing. In 2016, they were trying to set up Papadopoulos to be able to tie him to the Trump-Russia collusion narrative to destroy Trump. But Uncle Bob was trying to frame Papadopoulos in another way to get him to compose a tune to save his neck, because he was going to be looking at serious jail time because they were going to catch him with 10 grand coming into the country. But Papadopoulos wised up and realized, hey, this is not good. No one gives you 10 grand in cash. This guy's a shady character. I'm not coming into the U.S. with 10 grand. That's when he gave it to his lawyer, and it's been in a bank in Greece ever since. He never spent the money. And what was Papadopoulos' fine? $10,000 with no forfeiture. The FBI wants their money back. That's the FBI's 10 grand. And that's what he's going to prove when they take a look at the serial numbers on those bills and find out that's FBI money. Now, Chuck Ross of the Daily Caller is telling us that Charles Tawil, T-A-W-I-L, is the guy who gave Papadopoulos the 10 grand in a hotel room in Israel. Papadopoulos then gave the money to an attorney in Greece before coming back to the U.S. Papadopoulos was arrested at Dallas International on July 27th, 2017, when he came back to the U.S., and they were expecting he was going to have 10 grand on him, but he did not. We know that Mr. Tawil, Charles Tawil, is a known intelligence asset of the FBI and the CIA. Now, Uncle Bob the Executioner is going to be found guilty of running a frame-up operation on Papadopoulos. So that's what's more or new and important about this story. We've moved beyond just the FBI, the DOJ, Brennan, the whole 9 yards of 2016. This is 2017 stuff. This is stuff that Uncle Bob the Executioner and his team were involved in. They were trying to frame Papadopoulos too. And that failed as well. And he's got the evidence. It's those $10,000 he's got. Marked bills, probably, that they can find out where they came from. And I think they'll find out they came from the FBI to be used as what they're going to call a sting operation, which is really a frame-up. And that's what they're going to prove. Papadopoulos was set up by Uncle Bob the Executioner. Papadopoulos was supposed to have the $10,000 on him, but he did not. When the FBI met Papadopoulos at the airport, they had no warrant for his arrest. They had no indictment pending. They had no criminal complaint at all. Nothing. They had nothing on Papadopoulos. Nothing. What they were hoping to have was $10,000 in a briefcase. But when it wasn't there, that's why they had to take Papadopoulos and go work him over and give him the hot light treatment overnight until the following morning, when they rushed around and had a really kind of haphazard and awkward sort of court hearing because they were able to use enough bullshit on Papadopoulos to scare him enough to get him to talk. And of course, he did make a false statement to them, or one or two false statements previously when they interviewed him in January of 2017, about 6 months prior. Here's another important facet of this, which is that Rodenstein would have had to have known and would have had to have okayed any type of sting operation by Uncle Bob the Executioner. He's working for Rodenstein. Uncle Bob would not have been able to go get 100 grand of FBI money and run this plot without the approval of Rodenstein. Had to have the approval of Rodenstein. Now we know why Rodenstein doesn't want to turn over all them documents. Trump's got to know all this. And that's why he's playing Rodenstein the way he is. He's got leverage on him. As long as he keeps Rodenstein in place and uses that leverage, he can get a lot done, my friends. After the midterms, and I'm telling you, the midterms are most likely, I'd say about 90%. I don't care what the polls say. I don't care what the media says. I'm telling you, 90% chance Republicans have a big win in the Senate, 5, 6, maybe 7 seats. I'm calling it 57 seats. I think that they'll end up winning the House. I think it'll be close, but I think that they'll have 222 seats. I'm thinking they'll have 6 seats more than they need. 218 is what they need to control the House. I think they'll end up with 222. Could be even better than that. Some people have predicted, Larry, for example, thinks 230. It could go that high. We'll see. Sherrod Brown. This is for those of us who live in Ohio. Sherrod Brown, of course, had about a 16, 18-point lead over Jim Renici just 2 weeks ago. But as a result of some recent sexual misconduct allegations against Sherrod Brown by multiple women, that lead has now been cut to 6. As of today, it's 49-43. Sherrod Brown leading only by 6. 2 weeks ago, it was 16, 18 points. Now, it's closing. The sex scandal's taking its toll. We'll find out if it's legit or whatever. I don't know. I really don't care about the sex scandal stuff so much. Sherrod Brown, we don't want Sherrod Brown in the Senate. This was one that was thought to not even be a contest. This was not even, the Democrats, even Republicans, had this in the Democrat column, solid blue. This wasn't even a leaning. This wasn't a toss-up. This was absolutely 100% what they believe solid blue, just like Menendez in New Jersey. Those were 2 solid blue seats that were never even supposed to be in play, which are now very much in play. Charles McCullough, many of you remember him quite well. We talked about him a lot back in the late spring of 2016. He was the former Inspector General of the CIA. He was the one who was forced out because he's the one who discovered that the Chinese had hacked the Rotten Reverend Clinton's private server. And when he attempted to bring it to light to the DOJ and to have them look at it, they targeted him and forced him out of his job. Charles McCullough. He is saying that Brennan's CIA Security Division, Mr. Potato Head, accessed emails between whistleblowers and congressional staffers. Charles Grassley, who's been trying to get his hands on this information, now has this information. He has the documents that he requested nearly a year ago, and that is how we are learning about this. So now we know that Mr. Potato Head, John Brennan, was using the CIA's Security Division to intercept or get their hands on emails that were CIA whistleblowers. In other words, people at the CIA who were either going to the DOJ or going to members of Congress or whatever and telling them about things that were observing that were not exactly on the up and up happening at the Central Intelligence Agency. And Brennan had his peeps digging into these people, which is a no-no. Grassley now has the documents to prove it, and I imagine that Charles McCullough is one of the people whose emails were probably located, as well as this individual who blew the whistle on Halper, who's currently being represented by Judicial Watch. My oh my. Of course, many of you saw the Project Veritas video with outing Andrew Gilliam, with this guy who's clearly a racist, who, of course, went to college with him as one of his top campaign people, who basically points out that Gilliam, he tells this Project Veritas reporter, undercover reporter, that, of course, they do have to lie about who they are, exactly what we've seen from all the other Democrats busted by Project Veritas, and he even calls Florida a cracker state. A cracker state. Well, I guess it's better than calling it the wetback state. But either way, there's still comments you shouldn't make if you're trying to run for governor. I'm not running for anything, so I can say it, and I don't give a damn. But yeah, calling white people crackers. Now, personally, I don't care. You call me a cracker. I don't give a damn. It don't bother me at all. It's just whoop-de-doo. Who cares? I'm a cracker. Okay. Alrighty. But, a lot of people, are bothered by this stuff. I'm not. It just, doesn't bother me. It's just sticks and stones, break my bones, but words will never harm me sort of thing. I don't, it's just name calling. It's just, who cares? It's nothing to me. I don't think anything about it. But a lot of people do, and it's a stupid thing to say, especially when you know that Project Veritas is out there doing this type of stuff. You'd think that all these campaigns would be very, very careful, and they would be talking to their people saying, hey, be careful. You never know who you're talking to. Keep it on the up and up, keep it straight, play it straight, and whatever. Stop lying to people. How about that? If you're not lying to people, you don't have to worry about getting caught. But that's what Democrats do, because Democrats can't tell the truth about what they believe and get elected, because they're communists. They're communists. That's right. They're not socialist. They're not democratic socialist. They're not that at all. They're communist. They're communists. Period. Just about everything they say is right there in the Communist Manifesto. They just have to lie about it. Good job for James O'Keefe and Project Veritas. Incredible work that they're doing, particularly in this election. They're actually more effective in this midterm than they were in 2016, I think. A new Politico poll, certainly not a poll friendly to the president or Republicans, a new Politico poll shows that 64% of registered voters, 64% of registered voters believe the media is more divisive than Trump. Who's the 36% that hasn't figured that out? Probably the people that work at Politico, New York Times, MSNBC, CNN, and the rest. Judicial Watch. Working right now on this thing, and they say that the FBI likely deleted Comey and McCabe's text messages in a massive cover-up. Yeah, they've been trying to get their hands on these text messages of Comey and McCabe, between Comey and McCabe. They've been trying, and the judge even ordered that they have to be turned over. But they're not producing any. They're saying they apparently don't have any, or don't have what Judicial Watch wants. That's impossible to believe. It is impossible to believe that Comey and McCabe did not communicate. They're communicating with everybody else by email. Why in the world would you not have communications between the FBI director and his assistant, especially when McCabe was such a real special person to Comey? I mean, Comey's the one who brought McCabe in, guided his career, brought him in specifically for a lot of reasons. They were very close. It's not like they didn't know each other or like each other. They were very close. Comey was kind of McCabe's mentor, brought him in, put him in charge of the Right Reverend Clinton investigation. You know they had lots of email conversations trying to tell us it's not there. Well, if it's not there, it's because someone deleted it. That would be a big, fat crime. Big, fat crime. Well, it looks like Andrew Gilliam and Commie Bernie had a rally yesterday in Florida, but it appears that they were only able to fill up about 1/3 of a high school gymnasium. And I saw the pics, my friends. It looked like about 50 to 75 people kind of wandering around in a small gymnasium. I mean, I could draw more people than that. That's unbelievable. Gilliam and Bernie, a joint rally with Bernie. I mean, Bernie Sanders usually draws a lot of people. They couldn't even fill up 1/3 of a high school gymnasium, and that's the blue wave. These people are in for a very rough night, and we're in for a very good night, aren't we? And then Mr. Cromwell can watch exactly what I said will happen when you watch the Democrats turn on each other. They will turn on each other, and the Civil War and the blood that may be spilled will be within the Democratic Party as they destroy themselves, blaming each other for why they suck so bad. Oh, but the Democrats are going to have a voter telethon. Oh, maybe that'll work. Put on by your good friends out in Hollywood. Led by who else? Jane Fonda, who told us back in the 1960s that if Americans really understood communism, they would love communism and welcome communism into the country. They just didn't know enough about it. Jane Fonda will be leading the charge along with that nutcase Julia Louis-Dreyfus and that fat pig Amy Schumer. And this is going to be done through Comedy Central. Well, that makes sense, because that's what this sounds like, is comedy. Bad comedy. Horrible comedy. And in this particular telethon, you don't call to pledge money, you call to pledge that you're going to vote. Oh yeah, they're going to vote, all right. That's what we keep hearing. That's where the blue wave is going to come from. Unfortunately, what we're finding out is that those left-wingers out in Cali, only 6% of those people they were counting on to be their blue wave have sent in the return ballots that they requested. 100 people request early ballot, 6 of them send them back in. That doesn't sound like a very good sign to me that you're headed for a blue wave or any type of success. Sounds like failure for the Democrats, and winning for us and the president and his party. Now we have McCaskill saying she supports Trump 100%. to secure the border. And even Joe Donnelly now says he'll take a look at it. Oh, yeah, they're going to secure the border. Yes, sirree. Trump's great, right? And his border plan, they're all for it. They're all for it. They're desperate, my friends. They're desperate and dateless. And we're winning. Thanks for tuning in. See y'all. Bye.